Hey there, and welcome to Echoes of Age. This is the place where we talk real stuff about getting older, in a way that helps you feel stronger, stay sharper, and live better every single day. We're diving into the things no one really talks about when it comes to aging, but should. Let's jump in, Ted.
What if a single sentence from your partner could change the way you feel about your entire marriage? We like to imagine that by the time we reach our later years, our relationships are carved from stone, solid, unshakable, weathered by decades of shared life. We've survived family struggles, health scares, financial ups and downs, and the natural changes that come with aging. We believe nothing could shake the foundation we've built. But here's the truth: sometimes it's not the loud arguments or shocking betrayals that cause the cracks. Sometimes it's just a few words, spoken in a tone that leaves you unsettled. Words that seem small in the moment but start to echo in your mind long after the conversation ends. I've seen this happen to neighbors, to friends, even to people who swore they'd never doubt their partner. And I've felt it myself, that quiet sting when someone you trust most says something that chips away at your confidence, your dignity, or your peace of mind. In this video, I want to share 5 things a spouse might say in later life that should make you pause and pay attention. These aren't harmless slips of the tongue. They're signs that respect, care, or trust might be fading. If you hear them, it's time to protect yourself before the damage becomes lasting. Stay with me until the end, because the final one is the most surprising, and for many, the hardest to recognize until it's too late. When you've lived side by side with someone for decades, they know exactly what you've accomplished. They've seen your strengths, your creativity, and your determination. That's why it's so painful when a partner begins to speak as if you're no longer capable. It might sound like, "You can't do that anymore. Don't bother, I'll handle it. You wouldn't understand." At first, these words might seem like concern. But if they appear often, they can turn into a steady drip that wears away your confidence. I knew a woman named Margaret who had been an avid gardener for over 40 years. Her roses were famous in the neighborhood. But after she turned 75, her husband started making comments like, "You'll hurt your back out there," or "You should leave the heavy stuff to me." Within a year, she'd stopped planting altogether. The saddest part? She started believing she couldn't do it anymore, even though her health hadn't changed. This isn't just about a hobby. It's about how your partner sees you. In a loving marriage, age should be met with respect for the wisdom and experience you bring, even if you move a little slower. When someone talks down to your abilities, they're not protecting you. They're quietly moving you to the sidelines. If you notice this happening, it's important to speak up. Explain how their words make you feel, and remind yourself, and them, that your value is not measured only by what you can physically do. Every couple argues. That's normal. But in a healthy relationship, disagreements are simply moments to work through, not reasons to abandon the partnership. That's why it's alarming when a spouse starts throwing around ultimatums like, "Maybe I should just leave. If you keep this up, I'm out of here." Especially when the disagreement is over something small, like where to spend a holiday or what to buy for the kitchen. I once spoke with Harold, a retired teacher in his late 70s. He told me that whenever he and his wife disagreed on spending money, even over something minor like a new coffee maker, she'd say, "If you're going to waste money, maybe we shouldn't live together." Over time, Harold stopped voicing his opinions about anything involving money. He wasn't afraid of the purchase itself, he was afraid of losing his marriage. This is emotional blackmail. It plants a constant sense of instability, making you feel as though one wrong move could cost you your partner. In later years, when the thought of separation feels especially overwhelming, these threats can be deeply damaging. If you face this pattern, it's crucial to set boundaries. Make it clear that disagreements are normal, but threats to end the relationship are unacceptable. Love should never be used as a bargaining chip. As we get older, health becomes a regular part of conversation, not because we're complaining, but because our bodies change. Pain, shortness of breath, sudden fatigue, these are real signals, not imagined dramas. So when a spouse says things like, "You're overreacting," You're always talking about something wrong with you. It's not just hurtful, it can be dangerous. I remember a man named Daniel, who started experiencing chest tightness one evening. He thought about telling his wife, but she had brushed off his concerns before, telling him he worried too much. So he stayed quiet. Hours later, he was rushed to the hospital with a serious heart problem that could have been treated sooner. This kind of dismissal doesn't just harm your physical well-being. It also damages emotional closeness. If you feel you can't share your worries without being ridiculed, you'll start keeping them to yourself. And that silence builds a wall between you and your partner. In a strong relationship, both people treat each other's health as a priority. Even if your partner doesn't fully understand your fear, they should respect it. Anything less undermines the trust and safety you should have in your marriage. By the time we reach our later years, we've earned the right to trust our own judgment. We've made decisions, learned from mistakes, and built lives based on what matters to us. That's why it can be so disheartening when a spouse constantly questions or overrides your choices. This isn't about healthy disagreement, it's about a pattern of treating your ideas as automatically wrong. Maybe you suggest visiting friends, and they respond, "That's too much trouble." Or you choose what to cook for dinner, and they say, "You never pick the right thing." I met a man named Albert whose wife used to plan small weekend trips. Over time, Albert began criticizing every suggestion: too expensive, too far, not worth the hassle. Eventually, she stopped planning altogether. She told me later it felt like she'd lost a part of herself. When your choices are constantly dismissed, it sends the message that your voice doesn't matter. And once that happens, you may start to feel like a passenger in your own life. In a respectful partnership, both opinions count. Even if compromise is needed, no one's ideas should be automatically discounted. His one often slips under the radar because it can sound selfless, even loving, on the surface. A spouse might say, "You'd be happier without me. Maybe you'd have an easier life if we weren't together." Sometimes it's said in anger. Other times it's quiet, almost like a sigh over morning coffee. But these comments are more dangerous than they seem. I once knew a woman named Evelyn whose husband said this during an argument. She dismissed it as heat-of-the-moment talk, until he said it again a month later, this time calmly. From then on, she couldn't shake the thought that he might actually leave. When someone plants the idea that you'd be better apart, it weakens the sense of security in your relationship. It can create emotional distance, make you feel disposable, or even prepare you for a separation you never asked for. Sometimes these statements are manipulative, meant to test your reaction or make you beg for the relationship to stay. Other times, they signal that the speaker has already started imagining life without you. Either way, they should never be ignored. In a committed marriage, the goal is to face challenges together, not drop hints about walking away. If you hear this more than once, it's time for a serious conversation about where your relationship is headed. A marriage in later life should be a refuge, a safe harbor built on years of shared effort, patience, and care. But when the words we hear from our spouse start to chip away at our self-worth, our safety, or our peace of mind, it's a warning sign. The phrases I've shared today aren't harmless slips. They're signals that something in the relationship may be shifting in a way that doesn't serve your well-being. Protecting your dignity isn't selfish, it's essential. You have every right to spend the rest of your years in a relationship that honors you. If something here resonated with you, share it in the comments. Maybe you've experienced one of these situations, or maybe you've learned how to set healthy boundaries in your own marriage. Your story might help someone else see a situation more clearly. And if you found value in this conversation, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps keep these important discussions alive. Thank you for spending this time with me, and remember, the right words can heal, but the wrong ones can slowly take away the very things we've worked a lifetime to build. Choose, and demand, words that lift you up.